Hey everybody, I'm going to do a sample assignment for ChallengeSet 1 that will hopefully teach you everything you need to know to be able to complete ChallengeSet 1. I'm going to say that I want to convert inches to centimeters in a project. So what I do is I open up Eclipse, I go to File, New, and Java Project. Right here I type my project name, I'll just call it ChallengeSet 1 sample, just because. What you call your project doesn't really matter, it's the class name that's really important. So there, I've got my ChallengeSet 1 sample. I right click, I go to new, I go to class. I'm going to call it ChallengeSet 1. Don't forget to check mark that you want to create a main method. You'll need to have one of those, and remembering everything you have to type to get it is kind of a pain. Then you click finish. Then you should have ChallengeSet1.java right here and your main method. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create my constructor. For that I just type public ChallengeSet1. I do the parentheses and a curly brace. The curly brace, I'm going to zoom in so you can see it, is the little squiggly thing. It's not a parenthesis, it's not a square bracket. So make sure you do that, and then after I do that, I hit enter, and you'll notice that Eclipse automatically puts another one in there, so I don't have to worry about that. What I'm going to do now that I've created that is I'm going to call my constructor by typing new ChallengeSet1. And what that does is, oops, there. What that does is it says the main method always runs first. It calls my constructor, goes down to my constructor, and now my constructor has to do a command. I'm going to leave that part alone, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new method. A method is just like a little program. I'm going to call my method inchConvert. So I type public void inchConvert, and then the little parentheses, curly brace. Now I've got a method. What I want to do is I want to take a number and convert it to centimeters. So now that I'm thinking about it, probably what I want to do is I want to send the number of inches to my method so that my method just takes that number and runs a conversion. So I'm going to place a parameter in here. A parameter is a piece of data, or multiple pieces of data, that gets sent to your method when it starts. So I'll just do something simple, and I'll say that my parameter is going to be a whole number, so an integer, and I'm going to call it inches. So this defines the type of data we're receiving, and this is the name of the data we're receiving as a parameter. So I don't actually know what the conversion rate is for inches, so I will say, let's see, convert 1 inch to cm. And this says it's 2.54. I'll believe it, and I'll say, let's see, why don't we say, we're going to create a double. A double is a type of data that has a remainder, basically. It's multiple decimal places. An int is a whole number, a double can have decimal places. So we'll call it cm for centimeters equals, if I did it like this, then cm would equal 0 by default. It would be basically the same thing as doing this. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to say that this double cm is going to be equal to inches times 2.54. So if somebody said they wanted to convert 1 inch, it would be 1 times 2.54, and I would have 2.54 centimeters. And then, so now I've actually done the conversion. Well, so the conversion is kind of sitting inside this method, but it doesn't get sent back to whatever called it. So I want to return centimeters. Now the problem there, you'll see that if I put my mouse over this, it says void methods cannot return a value. Okay, void means it's not returning anything to whatever called it. and I want to return something to whatever called it. So I would say public double. So I am now able to return a double to the method that called inchConvert. Now let's go back and have this be void for a second. If I wanted to, I'm going to do 2 forward slashes to comment this out, which means that this line won't run. I could say sysout control space and cm, and what that would do is that would print out the number of centimeters in the console. It would do the conversion, and then it would print out within this method. So let me try actually calling inchConvert, and I'll send the number 1 over. So what this does is it says run inchConvert and send the number 1. So this piece of this number 1 here is an integer, and we'll save it to inches. cm equals 1 times 2.54, so I should be able to print out 2.54. I'll hit the run button over here, and there you go. If I change this to 2, hopefully that actually doubles our number. Indeed it does, and on and on. But in most of your assignments in the first challenge set, I tell you that I want you to return a value. So what I do, so I don't need this here, I need to return the value to the place where the method was called. In order to do that, this void here has to change the type of data we're returning. Since cm is a double and we're returning cm, it has to be public double inchConvert. Now, if I run this here, you won't see anything at all in my window. And that's because while I'm calling it and sending it data, and it's returning the number of centimeters to me, I'm not actually doing anything with the number that's getting returned to me. It would be as if somebody wrote a number on a sheet of paper, and rather than reading that piece of paper out loud, I just kept it to myself. So if I want that number to be printed out, I would type sysout and hit control space, and then I would take this inchConvert call, the method call, and put it inside. And the way you read this is, I want to print out whatever number gets returned to me when I call inchConvert and send it the number 2. So if I run this, it prints out 5.08 again. Now let's say I don't want to always send the number 2. Well, what I could do is I could use a scanner. A scanner is something that lets you type in information at the console. So I could say, let's do a sysout first. Sysout control space, enter the number of inches. And then I'll say, well, scanner, my scanner. So I just called, this is the type of data, it's a scanner. This is my variable name, my scanner. Equals new scanner, it's a new scanner that we're creating, and it's coming from system.in. So system.in is just the keyboard at the console here. Now you'll notice that scanner has a red underline. If I put my mouse over it, it says we need to import the scanner first. So scanner is a certain type of data that needs to be imported in order to use it. So I'll click that, and then it's been imported, so those red lines go away. I think if you go up here to the first line, you'll see that this import java.util.scanner now exists. So then what I can say is, let's create another variable, int inches equals my scanner dot next int. So what does this mean? Well, we're creating a variable called inches, and we are saying that type of data is an integer, as a whole number. My scanner is the variable name for scanner, and dot next int means that the next thing that we type into the console, we're going to consider it an integer. We're going to consider it a whole number. Instead of doing dot next int, I could do dot next, which would mean it was a string or, like letters and numbers combined. That's what a string is. I could do next, let's see, double. I could do next Boolean. There are lots of different things that I could do, but instead I'll just say it's next int because we want it to be int. Oops. Next int. So now the number I type in will get saved to inches, and I can say I want to send the variable inches here. So if I type in a 5, well, let's try running it. I'll run this here. If I type 5, it'll send 5 times 2.54. That looks about right. If I send a 1, it'll send 2.54, and on and on. So that is better than having to hard code the number in here, so it's always 2, at least theoretically. So now I've got one of these. Let's say I wanted to do 2 of them. Let's say I wanted to convert, I don't know, feet to meters or something. I could do public double feet convert, and we'll do an integer called feet. Otherwise, it's going to look very similar, right? We'll have a double called meters, and it's equal to feet times, oh, I don't know what the conversion is for that either. Convert 1 foot to meters. Looks like it's 0.3048. Okay. So, oh, it says here that what's wrong? Oh, I have to return a double. So I will return meters. And now this thing works too. So how do I call this thing? Well, I go back up to my my constructor, and I basically kind of do the same thing. I say sysout, control space, enter the number of feet. Now you notice that this that's in the parentheses here is in quotes, but in this sysout it's not in quotes. Well, if I put it in quotes, it's going to print out exactly what I typed. If I don't put it in quotes, it's going to either run the method and take the return result, or if I were to type a variable name like, I don't know, inches, it would just print that out. So it's important that when you have like a string of text that you want to print out exactly what you typed, you put it in quotes. So sysout.system.out.println or sysout control space, enter the number of feet. I've already created my scanner. This is something that you only have to do once. In fact, if I wanted to, I could take this and I could put it way up here at the top, right underneath the class. See where it says public class ChallengeSet1? That's the class definition. It's the class header. I can stick my scanner up here, and then everything that I create can use my scanner, because you create it once and then you can use it over and over again. So you'll notice it still lets me use my scanner. Here I can say I'm going to create an integer called feet, and it is equal to my scanner.nextInt. In other words, whatever someone types in. And then I'm going to sysout control space feet convert feet. So it looks pretty much identical to this one. I'm just basically doing a different conversion. Now there's one last thing I'm going to show you. Rather than doing this here in the constructor, I can create, in fact, your assignment tells you you have to create a method that kind of acts as an interface. And it's called, I think, let's try feet convert interface. So public void, we're not going to return anything. Feet convert interface, and let's say we don't actually get any parameters either. It's all happening in here. I can take exactly what I typed in the constructor here and dump it in here. So this is going to be what the user sees. This is going to be the conversion. So I say system.out.println, enter the number of feet. Then I send this stuff. I get the number of feet from my scanner, and then I print out the result when I send that stuff here. It would work well, actually, here, I forgot. I'll run this first so that you can see what it looks like without it. Number of inches is 1, number of feet is 1. Okay, that makes sense, right? I can take this out, I can paste it down here, and run it, and enter the number of inches. Oh, it didn't ask me for the number of feet. That's because I have to run this method that actually does all this stuff. So I will call feet convert interface. What this does is it says run this method, and now if I enter number of inches 1, it does these 3 things, comes down to here, and then it's going to do these 3 things in order, because that's what this says is run this thing. So that's more or less how to complete a big chunk of the first challenge set. I hope that this has explained a few more things for you, made it a little bit easier for you to follow. Of course, if you have any questions, please ask away.